Values in Action is our Director of Equity, Justice, and Engagement, Mikael Yisrael, along with Lower School Director Andrea Emmons and Upper School students Sophia and Gabby. Take it away, Mikael.
Thank you, Devin, and good afternoon, folks. My name is Mikael Yisrael. I am the Director of Equity, Justice, and Engagement here at AFS. A few things first before I get into our program. I believe that I agree with the Greek philosopher Aristotle when he said, educating the mind without educating the heart is no education at all. I see my work as Director of Equity, Justice, and Engagement, not as a position, but as a purpose, not as a role, but as a responsibility. And I'm humbled and honored to lead folks in this work and provide vision and framework and structures for all this work done. This section is called Values in Action, with the operative word being action. If you reflect back on this past few months or several months, I'm thinking about the spring and the summer, and I've been calling it Sprummer because things have really been melding together. And we think about what we need right now. And that really goes back to equity. Equity is what's needed. I was hired as a Director of Diversity and Inclusion. And then Rich and I had a conversation this summer, talk about what was necessary. And I said, I think my title should be changed so we can be very intentional about the work that's before us. So that equity, justice, and engagement piece is really what's important right now, particularly in this time. And thinking of these times, I hope that you and your loved ones are well. So a few things. This work is really about cultivating critical consciousness and creating a conscious community. By critical consciousness, you might know of some of the brilliant scholars such as Paulo Freire, who wrote the book Pedagogy of the Oppressed, and many others as well. Or you might know of Bell Hooks, who talks about Black feminist thought, talks about oppression and system of oppression, ethics of love as opposed to domination. So it's really about cultivating that critical consciousness where we ask deep questions and we gain empathy and we gain deep listening skills. Deep listening skills to the point where we listen to understand as opposed to listening to respond. And really going past mere matters of opinion to actually doing the research, spending time with folks and engaging in this work, no matter how uncomfortable it can be, no matter how challenging it can be. We run towards these things as opposed to away from them. So it's really about how do we engage in difficult conversations, have courageous conversations as opposed to confrontations, and how can we really continue to grow, realizing that we don't have all the answers. And the answer might be from someone who we really have nothing in common with, and vice versa. So really thinking about that. Creating a conscious community. A conscious community is really one that heightens awareness in a response to human need. So we really try to make sure that no matter who walks through our doors at AFS, we're responsive to their needs and that they have a place where they feel welcome and they feel like they have a place where they belong. And we can grow because we'll grow to accept anyone walking into those doors and join our community and share a sense of pride to be a part of the AFS community. This work is our shared responsibility. We all have a role to play. I know sometimes folks might find a way to opt out, or they might think that certain things don't exist because they haven't experienced it themselves. But this work is our responsibility. We all have a role to play. And it really comes from having to be intentional. This work has to be intentional and institutional. Of course, we are a bunch of individuals that make up a community, but at the end of the day, it must be intentional and institutional. It's not just about individual groups or individual people or programs. It's about institutional policies and practices. And successful engagement in this work is a result of education, experience, and exposure. We must put theory into practice and not only raise awareness, but actually take action. So once again, that theme of values and action, the operative word is action. The way that we do that here at AFS is really about windows and mirrors. And folks might be familiar with the term windows and mirrors. It's not only about who you see in terms of reflected. Do you see yourself reflected in the student population? Do you see yourself reflected in your teachers? Do you see yourself reflected in your colleagues? And do you also see the lives of others? So are you looking through the window into the lives of others who might have different experiences from you, who might come from different walks of life and lived experiences? How are we engaging not only in community with one another, but also in the curriculum? So when we think about the curriculum, what books are we reading? What authors are we reading? Are there any voices that are missing? Any perspectives that are missing? We're always trying to make sure that we're keeping our finger on the pulse of what's happening around us, not only at AFS, but outside in the larger world and larger community. So it's really about windows and mirrors. Some of the things that we do at AFS to make sure that we continue to have windows and mirrors and appropriately a representation of our student population as it pertains to our community is our hiring for diversity and cultural competency protocol. Whenever there's times for us to look to see who's going to join our community, who's going to be hired as a faculty member, staff member, et cetera, we come together, we have a diversity summit where we talk and name things that we're looking for. What are we missing? Any perspectives that we're missing? Who is out there that we can benefit from having here in the AFS community? So we really sit down and really have those conversations so we can really make clear what our intentions are, and really be responsible and hold ourselves accountable for moving forward about joining, having members of the community join AFS. It's also about leadership and professional development for our AFS employees. There's a lot of different opportunities for folks to get involved, particularly in this work. We want engagement, so I have been helping other folks help me provide structure and frameworks so folks can grow into leadership positions in an equitable and inclusive way. So some of the examples of this is a long list, and I encourage you to reach out to me if you have any more questions afterwards, but also to take a look at the literature that we have online. And some of the opportunities, we have diversity clerks across all the divisions. So in the lower school, middle school, and upper school, we have diversity clerks who really steward the work and are always in constant communication with me about what needs to be done, what can we do better, how can we improve, and what are we doing well, because we want to celebrate the things that we do well too. And there's also opportunities for folks to get involved in terms of professional development, such as the People of Color Conference. We've had, we always run a SEED cohort, which is Seeking Educational Equity and Diversity. We have sent folks to the Race Institute, White Privilege Conference. We have numerous film screenings and discussions and talkbacks. We have folks who create support groups. We have a faculty staff of color affinity group, and we have a number of ad hoc groups that actually are put together by faculty members and also parents as well, and making sure that we support our students, support each other, and try to steward and push forward this work. We also have the All Voices Family Alliance, which is an opportunity for parents and other members of the community to get engaged. As a matter of fact, next Saturday, we'll be engaging in the American Dream game, which is a game made by Point Made Learning. And it's an opportunity for you to really explore whether or not the American dream is one that's attainable by all, depending on your identifier. So that's just an example of what some of the adults can do in our community. As it pertains to students, there are many student leaderships and opportunities, and a lot of student organizations. I'll name some in no particular order. For example, at AFS, we have something called MARD, which is the Mid-Atlantic Regional Diversity Conference. We have that where students from a number of different schools, peer institutions as well. They have students who lead workshops. We have affinity groups where folks can talk about what's going on in their individual and respective campuses. We have keynote speakers. It's just a lot of time for community building and really talking across difference and finding that common ground. They have the Student Diversity Leadership Conference as well that a lot of students attend to. We have 6 students who go pretty much every year. We have some folks, albeit it'll be virtual this year, but we have some folks who will be attending this year too. So some of the leaders that we have in our program. And there's a lot of other programs that our parent institutions put on too. MARD takes place at our school. This past year was in our new gym, actually. So definitely missing and reminiscing on that. But we do other things at peer institutions, a lot of different webinars that are open for students as well. In the lower school specifically, the curriculum is phenomenal in terms of making sure that folks have opportunities to identify who they are or start to explore the identity and explore the identities of others. Many projects as well. And I've been recently, I have a class, 10th grade, called Power, Identity, and Social Change. And I've taken some of my students with me down to the lower school for some read-alouds and to work with folks. We did a leaf hunt, actually, and work with some students. And really just try to serve as role models and be in conversation with them. And read books that, really, that we gave them an opportunity to pick out for themselves. So just trying to empower them and model voice and choice and just bring some of our perspectives to the lower school. Recently, we have tried to create some affinity groups in the lower school as well. I have a boys group. This year's a little challenging because of COVID, but we're probably going to see if we can reimagine or really maybe delay it for a little bit until things get a little bit more clearer. But it's a boys group for Black boys in 4th grade called Ubuntu, which is really about humanity. And then there was a girls group who was being formulated called Udata, which means sisterhood. And we hope that that's a blueprint that will serve as one that other groups can continue to be built upon wherever there might be a need. So we continue to try to build opportunities. We've had a number of different conversations with parents to connect them to the daily going-ons at AFS. So that's something that happens in the lower school. In the middle school, there are a number of different clubs and organizations, affinity groups, and there's also the conscious community programs where folk work together to really develop racial identity, racial literacy, talk about a number of different cultural identifiers, and really wrestle with some topics and open up discussions and honest dialogue about the things that might be challenging or things that might be happening around the world. This year, we in the upper school, we also have clubs and affinity groups, and we are now implementing conscious communities in the upper school. So we'll see how that will be. And I'm excited to talk about those things because there's a lot of things we do need to unpack. Talking about the things that happened over the summer. You think about the protests, pandemic, and now everything that's leading to this political election. There's a lot of things that we need to talk about as an institution. There's a lot of things that we need to talk about as a society as it terms to exploring the human condition. And lastly, there's many of opportunities for students to get involved, but one that's near and dear to my heart is the Jedi Council. The Jedi Council was formerly known as the Student Diversity Council, but the students said, you know what, we want to call it the Jedi Council. So we have the Jedi Council, which stands for Justice, Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion. And two of our esteemed panelists who are in this section will share with you. But right now, I'm going to pass it off to Gabby Warner.
Hello, my name is Gabby, and I'm a junior now, but I came to AFS my 8th grade year. AFS has truly been a place to challenge myself with the definition of leader. The one characteristic that differentiates AFS from other schools is that almost all inside school events are 100% student-led. I was first introduced to the meaning of leader when one of my upperclassmen came to the middle school to organize a new club called Melanin Magic. It was a space for girls of color to talk about important matters and build friendships with one another. The club and the clerks made me think about the kind of leader I want to be. The first real change that I noticed in myself was that I decided that I wanted to start planning events to help others instead of just having it on my resume for colleges. However, I did get hit with the realization that this work is not something to take lightly. The first event that I helped plan when I was in middle school was the walkout for the Parkland shootings. I heard word that the upper school would be participating, and I wanted to help extend the opportunity to the middle school with a few of my friends. That day, we all figured out the true meaning of community. The middle school was an amazing way to introduce us to the realities of life while teaching us that we're not alone. Now, in the upper school, I have been able to take my leadership skills to the next level. I have been fortunate enough to be co-clerk with my peer, Jalen Price, with original founder Brianna Clark, who is graduating class of 2020, of one of the school's biggest events, Black Excellence Night. Black Excellence Night is the last event of Black History Month that takes most of the school year to plan. It is an event where Black students use their talents to make an impact on the school community, as well as on outside guests. We have turned this into an annual event, and this year is going to be our 3rd year. Last year, we had over 150 people come out to the event and 15 student performers along with the dance group. We welcome performers of all divisions, lower, middle, and upper, to share their voice through many different art forms. Each year, we pick a new theme that we wish to focus on to shine light on different subjects. We raised approximately $1,000 for last year's event through bake sales, concession stands at basketball games, platter sales, and partnered with 3 divisions in Mikael's office to help sponsor the school-wide event. At the end of the night performances, we have catered food to welcome our guests to have conversations with the performers and their families. The night is truly one for the community to remember, and it has a long-lasting impact on the younger grades at the school. Our overall goal is to encourage our Black students to get out of their comfort zones to really make their voices heard. We engage the school community to let them know this is what our Black students are capable of, and this whole school won't get the chance to forget. I am truly appreciative to lead this incredibly amazing event, and I can't wait to see what the younger grades will do with this once I pass the torch to them. Black Excellence Night has made a huge impact on myself, on my family who came to last year's event, and all of my friends around me. This event has really changed our lives to help think about who we are as a community and who we are individually. I really feel myself changing with who I am in this community. We have formed so many different bonds that are going to be long lasting, and I know that I'll be able to reach out to these people in any kind of circumstance. So with that in mind, I want to pass it on to Sophia.
Thank you, Gabby. Hi, I'm Sophia. I'm a senior. I came to AFS in 7th grade. And in 7th grade was when I started getting involved in diversity, equity, and inclusion work. It sort of worked the same way, where I was in middle school and had some upper school students come down to the middle school. So really it was interconnected the way that I sort of became interested in this work. And they ran an activity with us, and I learned about facilitating and what it means to be in a room and run a conversation, a really important conversation. At the time, this group was called Pride, and it was just really general, and it sort of didn't have a strict structure or like anything. It was just a group of kids that wanted to have conversations about different identifiers. And as you heard Mikael say, now it's become much more evolved and everything like that. But it still was all I needed to be interested in this work. So when I got to high school, I wanted to take a leadership role, and I was given that opportunity with AWARE, which is the club that I clerk now and that I have for pretty much all of being in high school. It stands for Anti-Racist White Activists for Racial Equity. So it's a long name, but it's in that acronym. And it's, instead of being a safe space, it's instead a space that encourages white students at AFS to confront problems that sometimes we don't have to think about. A lot of the times we don't have to think about, and recognize our own privilege and do work around that that's really, really needed. And that being involved in that club and taking a leadership role in that club was really easy for me. Like it was given to me by the people in the community. Like I was really supported in taking this leadership role, which only like furthered my passion for this work. And since then, I've also taken advantages of many other opportunities to go to diversity conferences. And like Mikael said, MARD is something that I've been to and facilitated at multiple years. And again, just if you, at AFS, if you have a passion for something, the opportunities are there for you and you will have the support for that. And so I really felt that through all the work that I've done sort of in this area. And the thing that I love most about it is that it's equally looking beyond yourself to understand lived experiences and perspectives of other people, and also self-reflection to better yourself, and then having that transcend past the club and past the community and into the world. And that's what I really love about it. I sort of wanted to speak about SDLC because I was one of the people that went, and it was an amazing experience for me. I had never been, and it's a really big conference, and I had only been to sort of smaller ones, and both the small ones and the big ones are amazing, but this one was just an incredible opportunity that I got because of AFS, and I was able to meet so many different people from everywhere and from so many different like walks of life. And yeah, I just feel really grateful to be able to gain perspectives from other people on their experiences. Now I want to pass it off to Andrea Emmons.
Hi friends, I'm Andrea Emmons. I'm the lower school director at Abington Friends School. And in lower school, it's really important to us that we help to foster children's identity, that we help them to feel secure in who they are, and that we empower them even at a very young age. And hearing Gabby and Sophia and Mikael speak, they referenced older students coming down into the younger divisions, and that's a huge part of how we help our students to aspire and sort of envision themselves. Lower school students see themselves as leaders, even though they're the littlest people in our school. They don't hesitate to take action and speak up. And it's important to us as a Quaker school that we foster that value. equity and social justice those are really important aspects of Quakerism. And so throughout the lower school curriculum, we work really hard to integrate deep questions and conversations into the classroom, that when children have questions, they feel empowered to ask, to have hard conversations. We teach them how to think critically about the materials that they're learning about, to think about perspective, and to push back and to wonder, who's telling the story? Why are they telling the story? And who gave them, the right to decide this was the story? And all of those are really critical foundations to growing into a strong sense of self. In lower school, our theme this year is belonging, and we chose that really intentionally. We chose that because it was so important to us in a time that's filled with so much turmoil, that all in our community, our students, our faculty, our staff, that families, that everyone feel like they have an essential and an important role in our community, that everyone feel a sense of belonging. And so, hearing Gabby and Sophia speak and, knowing what students go on to accomplish, that means so much to me, because in lower school, we see the seeds of all of that being started. And it's just such an essential part of an Abington Friends School education. Thank you.